Everybody else, if you can start muting them now. So do you know how to do that, Shashwat?
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, why don't you make me an admin as well?
Okay,
If you can.
Shashwin, can you make Krishna, Arjun, Prabhuji as an co-host or a host? Let it be a co-host so that it doesn't disturb and you can. This is all part of mentoring. Have you been able to do that, Shashwin? You click on Krishna Arjun Dasa and then say co-host. Yes. Okay, he's the host now. Okay, Prabhuji, you have the rights as well. So, Shashwin first Manglacharan, then Narayan Namaskritya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, Narayan Namaskritya, and then the verse. Okay, don't miss those two verses. Okay, I'll start recording. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shya Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvedam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Kopisha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushtute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhyasya Kirpa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shashwin Prabhu Ki Jai. What a wonderful introduction. Your Sanskrit Ucharan is simply mind-blowing. Prabhu, you should learn the whole Bhagavad Gita. If you learn one verse a day, in 2 years, you will know the full thing. 700 verses in 2 years. So Shashwin Prabhu, shall we set that challenge? Are you ready for that challenge?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, wonderful. I'd just like to make one last request. We had Draupadi Maharani Dasi had one other participant, a new participant to the ISKCON Eldoret Sangha. If we could reveal that participant again. So, Shashwin,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shiromani.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
She's listening to her Baba's class today.
Yes, we are really grateful for her. And she's so awake and so attentive.
So Shashwin Prabhu, you must realize, I thought you were the youngest participant, but now you are already a mentor to the next generation who are here. They'll be doing the Mangalacharan and you'll be giving the class before long. So this is how our process works. So today we are reading from Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 18th chapter, verse 15.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shashwin, can we allow Shashwin to read the text?
Oh, yes, please.
And then we can hand over to you for the translation and purport.
Please, Shashwin Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Arya Govind Prabhu, is it possible for you to take over the class? I will leave in some time. Hare Krishna, Arya Govind Prabhu.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Okay,
Alright.
Shashwin, let's start. We are ready to go.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradano Mahatamaikanta Parayanasya Hare Rudaram Charitam Visudam Susrusatam no Vitanno Tu Vidwan. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you so much. Can we hand over to you, Prabhu, now? Hare Krishna.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Prabhuji,
Thank you, Prabhu.
for joining us and making yourself available. Prabhuji, please accept our Dandavat pranams from everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Thank you, Prabhuji. We hand over to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you again to Shashwin Prabhu. So I'll read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. So just one administrative point. Do you think that we should actually show the verses as we're reading it out so everybody is aware of the verse, or is everyone at home, do they have it on their phones? Are they following along in terms of the verse?
Usually they follow along, Prabhuji. We don't show it, but from next time, it's a very good suggestion.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Just so everybody has access. So for those who aren't aware, today is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, verse 18. Sorry, Canto 1, chapter 18, verse 15. If you type in SB1.18.15, then you'll be able to access this verse. I think it's important. We'll move on then to the purport by His Divine Grace, Sabai Charanaravidam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So purport. The speaker on the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about him. When a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourses on the transcendence. Professional speakers and a materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of the Bhagavad Sapta for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses on Bhagavad Sapta for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities, but the discourses between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Sutta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished both by the audience and by the speaker. And therefore they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Now, Bhagavat Saptas are held for 7 days only. And after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavat Pradhan, and the audience is not Shushrushatama, or I should say Shushrushatam, or Shushrushatam, as explained above. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine, Snigdha Chetra Supraneta Vagminam Charasapitam, Prabhupada Gita Pranam, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Pashtata Deshatarine, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I'll repeat the translation. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. So this is a very exciting part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not that there is a dull part, but this is where we are about to enter in to the main event. So far there has been a prelude. As everyone is aware, the sages of Naimisharanya have gathered for a long yajna, because they can see that Kali Yuga is going to bring many inauspicious activities. The way that they are going to counteract these inauspicious activities is by conducting a recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sutta Goswami, who was previously witness to Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami's discourse previously, is now narrating what he had heard there. So we are now coming to the part of Sutta Goswami's recollection of that conversation, where Shukadev Goswami enters into the scene and begins to give the full Bhagavat discourse. So it is very interesting here that in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has made two major points. The first point is that the qualification of the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the second point is the qualification of the audience of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Both of them, I mean, often a lot of attention is given bogus guru, bogi yogi, God-man, and how people are unqualified or disqualified from speaking on the Bhagavatam, which can be true. But very little attention is actually given to what is the qualification of someone who is listening to the Bhagavatam. People don't talk about who are the bogus listeners, who is the bogus audience. So here we have seen, and in the verse itself, that not only are the Shaunak Rishi, who is heading the audience, is saying to Sutta Goswami, you are pure and learned. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is your chief object. You are pure and learned. You are qualified to speak. But in so doing, he's also expressed how he is anxious to receive such message. So he, along with all of his companions, are also qualified to hear. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that when you have people who are qualified to speak and those who are qualified to hear, what happens? It's relishable. What is the exact words that Srila Prabhupada says? He says, in such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished both by the audience and by the speaker. Unlimited. It's unlimited. It's ananta. It is unlimited. And he's talked about how, in contrast, and is the case often, unfortunately, in modern material situation, there's actually an expression, there's a joke, which certainly in rural India and village India, if you need a good night's sleep, if you're having trouble sleeping, go to your local Bhagavat Sapta. People go there to go and fall asleep. They don't go there for unlimited bliss. Oh, if you need to be bored, if you need to switch, go to the local Sapta, you'll get the best night's sleep ever. And that's often because the audience may not be qualified, but also the speaker is not qualified. There is some material motive. So one could ask, okay, that's fair enough. But then we read in Srimad Bhagavatam itself that, in the 6th canto, 16th chapter, 44th verse, there is a very famous shloka which says, "My Lord, it is not impossible. My Lord, it is not impossible for one to be immediately freed from all material contamination by seeing you. Not to speak of seeing you personally, but merely by the hearing of the holy name of your lordship, only once, the Chandalas, men of the lowest class, are freed of all material contamination." Only one. How many times are you going to mention the Lord's name in Srimad Bhagavatam? Unlimited times. It's basically comprised of glorification of the Supreme Lord. So one could argue, if the Bhagavatam itself is saying, oh, there's no problem if you just hear the holy name of the Lord once. Why are we so worried about having qualified audience and qualified speakers? The Lord's name is being spoken. Okay, some people have this motive, some people have that motive, but still they're being freed. However, we have to qualify this. We have to understand more deeply. Okay, there is some benefit which is derived. But 6th canto again qualifies how we can derive this benefit. And I think it's in the dealing of Ajamya, where the Srimad Bhagavatam qualifies that even if one chants the holy name with improper pronunciation, he will achieve relief from all material bondage if he chants without offenses. So the point is, the Lord's name is there, it is all purifying. But to really access the Lord's mercy, to remove your material suffering, you must chant without offenses. And then there's a further qualification. And this is given in the utmost authority on the Srimad Bhagavatam, as told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who is the utmost authority on Srimad Bhagavatam? We are called Rupanugas. We are the followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Srila Rupa Goswami, in his defining work, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada has translated as Nectar of Devotion, what does he say? He says, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anakulyena Krishno Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Srila Prabhupada translate this as without desires other than those for the service of Lord Krishna. Only if you approach the Srimad Bhagavatam, you approach your service without the desires, without desires other than for the service of Lord Krishna, can you really come to Bhakti Uttama, come to the topmost level of devotional service. So that topmost level of devotional service is that kind of bliss, that unlimited bliss that Srila Prabhupada has talked about in this purport. That bliss which means you can go on for tens and hundreds and thousands of years glorifying Sri Krishna. If you don't have that unmotivated speaker, that speaker is of the quality of having unmotivated devotional service unto Lord Krishna, you will never derive that kind of rust. You will go to these Bhagavats. Yes, you may hear the holy name of Krishna. Yes, there may be some form of purification, but more likely than not, you'll fall asleep, or you'll go back to how you, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, they listen for 7 days and then it's business as usual afterwards. Some kind of piety is there. So we must realize that analyzing who is a qualified speaker and who is a qualified listener is very important if we are to derive the highest benefit, right? This Bhakti Uttama, this topmost devotional service, which is the only real cause for the heart to be fully satisfied. So, as I mentioned before, the bogus gurus get a lot of headlines. But bogus followers, they generally slip under the radar. So we're going to begin today by talking about what is a qualified audience and what is a bogus audience. And I think before we get into that, we should realize that whenever we listen to somebody speaking on the Vyasa-san, whenever we listen to somebody speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, they are giving shiksha. So there are many types of gurus. We have Vartmana Pradakshika Guru, that one who introduces us to spiritual life. We have the Diksha Guru, one who formally initiates us within the Sampradaya. But we also have Shiksha Gurus. Shiksha Gurus are those who give us shiksha, who give us instruction. And they are also a very important form of guru. In fact, if we look at ISKCON, we will see on every altar in every ISKCON temple on the planet a series of 5 gurus. We have Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is there. He's the first guru that we'll see on the altar. Then next to him, we will see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But then next to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we will see Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. And next to Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, we will see Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And next to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we will see Jagannath Das Babaji. Now, the interesting thing about this link is that Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji and Bhaktivinoda Thakur are not guru and disciple. They have a shiksha relationship. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jagannath Das Babaji are not guru and disciple. They have a shiksha relationship. But shiksha is still a very important method of guru and disciple. And actually, whoever we receive instruction from, in one sense, becomes like a guru to us, at least for the purposes of that instruction. So when we are sitting down to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from an authorized source, we become like the shishya, the receiver of the shiksha, the disciple. And the person speaking the Bhagavatam becomes a guru. So in analyzing what is a proper audience, in one sense, it's useful to also explore what is a proper disciple. Because as a proper audience, we become the disciples of the speaker. And in terms of analyzing the proper speaker, conversely, we must also treat them as if they are a guru. So we will analyze what it means to be a proper guru. A proper guru, by extension, will be a proper speaker on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So qualification of the audience is very similar to the qualification of a disciple. And Srila Prabhupada has a wonderful purport in the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya refers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the second half of Gaur Nitai, and Charit Amrita. Charit means, Charita means the character, and Amrita means the nectar. So this is a book which is all about the nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a very important form of Lord Krishna, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to establish the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma of this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And actually, ISKCON was the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this Bhagavad Gita, this chanting of the holy name, was extended all across the world. So this book of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is considered the postgraduate study, if Bhagavad Gita is the high school study, then Srimad Bhagavatam is the undergraduate study, but the postgraduate study is Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada talks about the qualifications of a bona fide disciple. And he quotes actually Srimad Bhagavatam in that with this verse, Amanya Matsaro Daksho Nirmamo Dridha Saurhatha Asvataro Rita Chiknasur Anasayor Amoghavak. So the disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in the material bodily conception. He must give up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. He should be interested only in understanding the science of God. And he should be ready to consider all points in this matter. So he must be fully absorbed. He should no longer think that I am this body, this belongs to me. He must love his spiritual master with unflinching faith. So if those of us who are not initiated, we should all know that Srila Prabhupada by default will always remain our spiritual master. So we must love our spiritual master with unflinching faith. He must be very steady and fixed in his devotional life. The bona fide disciple should be very inquisitive to understand transcendental subject matter. So all of you who are here today, who are here every day, you're very interested in this Srimad Bhagavatam. So the eighth characteristic is that he must not search out fault amongst those with good qualities. And number 9, he should be no longer interested in material topics. And then number 10, his only interest should be Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So that is quite a heavy list of qualifications in order to be a disciple. In order to be disciple, a receiver of instruction, or a good audience, you must have very heavy qualifications. Number 10, his only interest should be Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. Number 9, he should be only interested in material topics. That means Premier League football, not so interested in. Can we all say that we're not interested in those things? Can we all say that we don't occasionally check the cricket score, even when India make the semi-final of the Cricket World Cup? I don't know. So it's a very high standard to become a qualified disciple, a qualified audience. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, also mentioned that one who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master. And he must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all the transcendental necessities. So we have all these 10 qualities, and we've also taken diksha of the bona fide spiritual master. In our case, we have Srila Prabhupada, who we can take shelter of. So this very high standard can seem daunting. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we shouldn't even read Srimad Bhagavatam? No, because Srila Prabhupada practically demonstrated he was going, before Srila Prabhupada left for the West, he would go with his light of the Bhagavat and his printed magazines and his copies of Srimad Bhagavatam. He'd even go to the tea stalls. He would give it to people who were drinking chai and coffee and smoking cigarettes, who apparently not very interested in spiritual life. And he was giving the Bhagavatam. So it is not that we necessarily have to have all of these qualities fully, but we have to be cultivating or be on the path of cultivating these qualities fully. We have to be serious about these qualities. Unlike what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that people go to show, make some show of spiritual life. They go to keep up appearance. They go for some material gain. They know that they will get some benefit. No. Okay, we may not be the perfect end product, but we must be on the path of trying to cultivate, giving up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. Even if we haven't fully, we should realize that this is our ultimate objective. We're not just going for some superficial material reason. So then one may say, okay, that's good, but how do we check our own progress? So people may have become familiar with something called the yoga ladder. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th, 5th, and 6th chapter, and actually all the way through, but throughout we're exposed to this yoga ladder. And this yoga ladder, it's not a physical ladder, but there is a sequence which Krishna explains to Arjun about different levels of activity. So the lowest level activity is known as karma. Now, karma literally means to act. And this karma, just acting on the level of karma, means that we do anything. Like animals have no regulation. Actually, they have some regulation, but not generally, they don't have very strict regulation, and they do whatever. This is known as vikarma. It means actual ugra karma, activities which have no regulation and therefore can have any kind of reaction. Higher than karma is something called karma kand. Now, karma kand is regulated sense enjoyment, and actually it is the best way to have sense enjoyment. So if you want to enjoy anything, there is some regulation. Somebody may say, I just want to eat whatever. But if all they eat is raw ingredients, are they really going to enjoy? If they eat rotten food, are they going to enjoy? So whereas somebody who is very, very painstaking about his preparation, only has the freshest ingredients, follows strict recipes, his level of enjoyment, because of that regulation, okay, there's a bit more effort, but his level of enjoyment will be higher. So we see that some regulation, if we want to have first class enjoyment, is actually better. Somebody might say, I want to go swimming in the ocean. And in England, certainly, the ocean is freezing cold. So if somebody doesn't take the discipline to book a ticket and go to somewhere nice, like Kenya, for example, Mombasa, or Diani Beach, and where you have a beautiful ocean and a beautiful beach. If somebody just says, I'm going to the beach, and he jumps in it, he won't enjoy. But if you regulate your activity, then your level of enjoyment is higher. So that's the difference between karma and karma kanda. Now, karma kanda is where we approach the demigods, we approach even the Supreme Lord, but we approach with a mood of, what can I get out of this? I'll give you something, God and Krishna. Krishna, I give you something, but I'm giving you because you're going to give me some enjoyment in this life. So some regulation is there, a higher level of sense enjoyment is there, but still this is a relatively low level. Why? Because we are only enjoying things which pertain to this body. This body, as we know, is perishable. Janma mrityu jara vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease. Even if we have unlimited sense enjoyment in this life, after 100 years, we're gone. So better we act on the platform of the soul, which can have much deeper sense of happiness and lives eternally. So how to get to that level? So the level above karma kanda is actually known as karma yoga. Karma yoga, karma, as we said, means activity. Yoga means to unite with the Supreme. And karma yoga is then divided into two sections: sakam karma yoga and nishkam karma yoga. Sakam karma yoga, sakam means with our own sense of enjoyment and giving to Krishna. This is where, yes, we're engaging with Krishna, not just for our own enjoyment. We do want to render service, but we also want to get something, some kind of reward from it. Yes, we want to distribute books, Srila Prabhupada's books. We want to help people, but we also want to make sure that our name is read out in the temple the next day. So-and-so distributed 150 books. So we see that we're giving genuine service to Krishna, but we're also keeping for ourselves. Higher than that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. That is where I go out and I distribute Prabhupada's books. And I don't care if my name is read out, isn't read out. I know that Krishna is in my heart. I know my Guru is in my heart, Chaitya Guru, and they can see everything. But still, Nishkam Karma Yoga, there is still some attachment to being a book distributor. If somebody said to this person, this is a lovely service, but from the next month, you're going to clean the toilets. No, I want to be a book distributor. I need to be a book distributor. So still some attachment is there. It is not full exclusive service to the Lord. There's still some attachment there for, maybe not for the fruit of the service, but to a particular service itself. One who genuinely wants to serve Krishna will follow in the mood of the gopis. The mood of the gopis is whatever needs to be done to please Krishna, I will do. If Krishna needs me to sing him a song, I'll sing him a song. If Krishna needs me to fan him, I'll fan him. Whatever is most pleasing to Krishna. It doesn't matter, even if I don't like playing a musical instrument, I'll play a musical instrument if it makes Krishna happy. So we then have, on the yoga ladder, we have another level above karma, karma kanda, and karma yoga. We then have jnana yoga. We then have ashtanga yoga. And we then have, at the top of that, bhakti yoga, right? Or upasana kanda. Jnana kanda, your karma kanda, jnana kanda, and upasana kanda. But anyway, we'll say, so jnana yoga, this is where we're absorbed in understanding the Lord through reading the Shastra and acquiring knowledge. And yes, knowledge is a very powerful tool, but knowledge just for knowledge's sake will only allow us to understand the Lord as Brahman, as the energy and the force behind everything. It won't allow us to have a deep appreciation of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Higher than that is this Ashtanga Yoga. Actually, it's Dhyana Yoga, which is the Ashtanga means 8 limbs. There are 8 limbs to Patanjali's yoga. 8 limbs: Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So Yam, Niyam asana and pranayam. Actually, when people talk about yoga, asana and pranayam. Asana, yam means restraints, and niyam means duties, and then asana and pranayam. This is what people think of yoga. In fact, not even yam and niyam. Asana and pranayam. Asana means the postures. Pranayam means the breathing techniques. People think that this is yoga. But actually, these 4 parts of yoga only really deal with the physical body. And this is just the preliminary. The secondary 4 limbs of yoga, which are pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. These 4 collectively are actually known as dhyana yoga. And these 4 elements of yoga will actually allow you to understand the super soul in the heart. Because dhyan is the 7th, and samadhi means you are focusing deeply on the Lord within your heart, the Paramatma. And in fact, they say this 1008 petal chakra will open at the end of your yoga practice. And on top of it, you will see the Lord and Lakshmi, or the Lord and Srimati Radharani residing there. But ultimately, you are only understanding one feature of the Lord, which is the Paramatma. So above, we've got to Gyan, which means that we understand the Brahman. We've got to Ashtanga Yoga, or the latter part of Ashtanga Yoga, which allows us to understand the Paramatma. But really an audience, a true audience, is operating on the level of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga will allow you to understand Bhagavan. You see, Brahman is the effulgence of the Lord. The Paramatma is a tiny aspect of the Lord, but the Lord completely can only be discovered by Bhakti Yoga. Now, one may say, okay, I understand this. I understand that I want to be able to focus fully and understand the complete conception of the Lord. I want to be eligible, but you've given 10 very heavy, there's 10 very heavy qualifications. And when I look at this yoga ladder, I don't see myself near the top. I'm still thinking about myself. I might be doing some service, but I'm thinking about myself. But there's one benefit. By engaging in sadhana bhakti, we may not be at that perfected level, but we are looking at what the ultimate goal is, the perfected level. And this is like an elevator, which takes us, there's this long ladder, but this elevator can zoom us right up to the top, much quicker than going step by step up this ladder. So in the same way that we may not feel that we have these 10 qualifications of a disciple, we may also feel that we are very low down on this yoga ladder, and therefore we are not qualified to receive instruction or to be a qualified audience to the Srimad Bhagavatam. However, if we understand fully what the topmost goal is, i.e. Bhakti Yoga, because many jnanis, they think that jnana is the ultimate goal. Many yogis think that Ashtanga Yoga is the ultimate goal. They may be much more disciplined and learned than us, but if we understand that the topmost goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if we follow in the footsteps of a bona fide guru like Srila Prabhupada, you will be amazed how quickly we start off from behind these yogis and we end up overtaking. So even if we do not have the qualification now, honestly speaking, if we have the right goal and if we are sincere, that in itself will make us eligible to receive this divine knowledge. So I'll now, in the interest of time, we've now established what makes a bona fide audience. Now let's talk about what makes a bona fide speaker. So what is the qualification of a bona fide speaker? Srila Prabhupada famously has written, and we say these 2 verses at the beginning of Bhagavatam class, Nashta Prayasho Bhatresho Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So the translation of one of these verses, which is 1:2:18 in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that there are 2 types of Bhagavats. Srila Prabhupada said there is the book Bhagavat and there is the devotee Bhagavat. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the book Bhagavat, and the devotee Bhagavat is the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada says a devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat, because the devotee Bhagavat lives his life in terms of the book Bhagavat. And the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead. So you must, in order to be a qualified speaker of Bhagavatam, you must live your life according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is a very famous verse, the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, again given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Vacho vegam manasakrod vegam, jiva vegam udarapasta vegam, itan vegan yo vishaheta deraha, sarvam apimam prithvim sashishyat. And what this means, this very first verse of Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, is saying a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger and the actions of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Sarvam apimam prithvim sashishyat. So the whole prithvim sashishyat can become shishya, disciples. He can make the whole world his disciples. It's actually another slight translation that the acharyas give. He can make disciples all over the world, or he can make the whole world his disciples. Why? Because he's tolerating the urges to speak, the mind's demands, anger, tongue, belly, genitals. You know, they say that controlling the urge of the tongue is very difficult because we have two different types of senses. We have Jnanendriya and Karmendriya, right? Sankhya philosophy, our Sankhya philosophy, which explores everything in this world, says, you know, in Western paradigm, we only have five senses, you know, ears, nose, smell, taste, and touch. But that's only gyan. That's only where we can receive information. But how can we give out activities, right? We don't just perceive activities, but we also conduct activities. So there they talk about the limbs, the genital, the action-inducing senses. But the interesting thing about the tongue is it is not only receiving information or gyan indriya. Indriya means sense. It's a knowledge-receiving sense, but it's also a karmendriya. It is an action-performing sense because you can both speak and you can taste with the tongue. So that means to control the tongue, to control both the speech and to control what you eat is very, very difficult. You know, oftentimes we may say, I'm just going to eat very simple prasadam. And then we see an ice cream stand or an ice cream shop and we're tempted, we go in and we binge. Or we may say, I'm only going to eat offered prasadam. And then our favorite pizza place is there. And we think, oh, I'll offer this in my mind. So these things are happening that we are finding it very difficult about what to eat and how to control that. And sometimes we may say, I'm not going to speak anything apart from Krishna Katha. And then the opportunity for some juicy gossip comes and we give it up. But one who is a qualified speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is able to control this urge to speak. He's able to control the tongue, belly, and genitals. He's able to control this prompt of anger. He is always in control of his senses. And that is what makes him the personality Bhagavat. Personality Bhagavat. So a personality Bhagavat, you have Bhagavan, who, as we've established before, is the supreme personality of Godhead. It literally means one who is full of all opulences. I may have some money, you may have some strength, somebody else may have some wealth, but nobody has all the strength in the world. Nobody has all the money in the world. And certainly nobody has all the strength, all the money, all the wealth, all the fame, all the intelligence, all the beauty, and all the renunciation, all at the same time for an unlimited. The only person who can claim that is the supreme personality of Godhead. Ishvara Paramam Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. He can claim to be Bhagavan, the master of all opulences. So Bhagavan, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the song of Bhagavan, the instructions of Bhagavan. That's we have Bhagavan, we have Bhagavad, but then we have Bhagavat. Bhagavat is one who lives his life according to the instructions, the Bhagavad of Bhagavan. So in so doing, he becomes as good as Bhagavan in one sense. He can control the urge of the mind, the tongue, the belly, the genitals. He is a qualified speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can see what is a clear demonstration. So let's put this into practice. So again, going back to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Prabhupada in the Madhya Leela is explaining what the qualified disciple is like, Srila Prabhupada also explains one aspect or one example of a qualified guru, a qualified speaker of the Bhagavatam. And in that he says, a spiritual master should not be very anxious to accept a disciple because of his material opulences. Sometimes a big businessman or landlord may approach a spiritual master for initiation. Those who are materially interested are called Vishayi or Karmis, which indicates they are very fond of sense gratification. Such Vishayis may sometimes approach a famous guru and ask to become a disciple just as a matter of fashion. Some Vishayis pose as disciples of a reputed spiritual master just to cover their activities and advertise themselves as advanced in spiritual knowledge. In other words, they want to attain material excess. A spiritual master must be very careful in this regard. The genuine spiritual master does not accept a material opulent disciples just to advertise the fact that he has a big disciple. He knows that by associating with such Vishayi disciples, he may fall down. One who accepts a Vishayi disciple is not a bona fide spiritual master. So the most famous example of this is given is Srila Prabhupada. Now, we must realize that in the 60s and 70s, practically speaking, the Beatles were as famous as Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Sachin Tendulkar, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, whoever you can think of, rolled together and amplified. Everyone in the world knew the Beatles, and this was before Instagram and social media. They were a phenomenon. I'm sure there were people in the Amazon who knew about the Beatles. And George Harrison, while he was still actually a very sincere soul, he donated the Bhaktivedanta Manna, he helped print the first Krishna book, he was chanting even up until the point he left his body. Srila Prabhupada, if he would have made George Harrison one of the four Beatles, his disciples, it would have brought untold fame to Srila Prabhupada. It would have brought untold glory. One of the four most famous people in the world is now a Hare Krishna part of ISKCON. Boom! You would have seen how membership to ISKCON, let us all take initiative. But no, Srila Prabhupada, being a bona fide speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, knew that even though George Harrison was sincere, there were parts of his lifestyle, parts of his enjoyment that he would not be able to give up. And therefore, he didn't allow George Harrison to become a disciple, even though George Harrison requested. So in that we can see, despite the material temptation for Srila Prabhupada to accept George Harrison as a former disciple, he resisted it. And in that we see, again, the qualification of one person who is in complete control of their senses, who is following the Srimad Bhagavatam, the book Bhagavat, and has become the person Bhagavat. So in summary, it is important for us to understand what a genuine disciple, a genuine audience looks like, and a genuine guru, a genuine speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If somebody speaks and gives instruction, they become a Shiksha guru. And if we are receiving Shiksha, we become a Shishya. So we must be very clear. What do we need to do to become qualified to receive this instruction? And who is qualified to give this instruction? Srila Prabhupada once said, even one drop of venom can pollute a whole vat of pure milk. So in the same way, the Bhagavatam is the pure milk, but a speaker with a mixed motive can pollute that. A listener with a mixed motive can pollute that. So we must be very clear if we are to derive this unlimited joy from Srimad Bhagavatam, like the sage's name is Sharanya, that we are qualified listeners, listening from a qualified source. A genuine disciple is one who has 10 principal qualities. He's without lust, he's without greed, he is without madness. He's one that has advanced up the yoga ladder and is focusing on bhakti. However, even if we cannot see all of these qualities in ourselves, even if we are striving to become exclusively servants of Krishna, but we know deep in our hearts that we still have some material attachment, the fact that we are sincerely have set our goal that high, and if we sincerely pursue it, gives us the qualification to actually listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if we are not there yet, It is only a matter of time that we will get there. And that is why Srila Prabhupada said, all my disciples are pure devotees. They may have had some material contamination, but they had a pure intention and a pure goal. So if we also have a pure intention and a pure goal, despite our shortcomings, we will receive that. And we therefore become qualified disciples, qualified to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then a speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, who is that speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam? He is somebody that embodies the Bhagavatam. Bhagavat, Bhagavan, Bhagavat, Bhagavat. He has embodied the Bhagavat. He has become Bhagavat by embodying the teachings of Bhagavan. He is one who is in control of his senses. He's the one who's in control of temptation. And he will not deviate at all, as we see Srila Prabhupada not accepting George Harrison. Despite George Harrison's good qualities, he realized this person will never be able to come to that standard in this life because of his position. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada was able to resist that temptation. These are the true speakers of Bhagavatam. And when we have these disciples and these gurus coming together, it creates unlimited transcendental bliss and unlimited auspiciousness, which will reverberate through space and through time for the benefit of all living entities. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So thank you all. I'll leave a few minutes so we can have any questions, comments, and corrections from today's class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. Thank you.
Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you so much. Yes. Are there any questions or comments? Prabhuji, when we were talking about the requirements of a disciple, or so you were talking about he has to be a good listener. I mean, he has to have all these qualities what you explained. So, but what is that one quality that we can all learn from this, that that will make success?
So while I'm not qualified to state definitively, in my experience, there is the third. I really love Nectar of Instruction, and I would encourage anyone who wants to understand the practical application of being a devotee should look at Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita. And in that, I think it's the third verse. Is it the third verse? Yes, it is the third verse. And that's Utsahan Nishchayat Dairyat Tatat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Sutovrite Shadbhir Bhaktir Prashidyati. Shadbhir Bhaktir Prashidyati. These six qualities, Bhaktir Prashidyati, will help cultivate bhakti in you. And this is Rupa Goswami. I'm quoting Rupa Goswami all day today. Rupa Goswami is the ultimate authority on bhakti. Utsahan, he leads with Utsahan. If you are enthusiastic about your spiritual life, if you chant your rounds enthusiastically, if you give your class enthusiastically, if you distribute your books enthusiastically, if you preach enthusiastically, ultimately, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru in your heart. He will make up for your deficiencies. If you fall from the required standard, if you stop chanting your rounds for whatever reason, but then you come back to it with enthusiasm, you may fall from the required standard 99 times, but your enthusiasm will mean you will come back to it 100 times. And that enthusiasm will carry you through any deficiencies, and it will attract the mercy of God. That's what the Guru and Gauranga, that is the experience I've seen in my life. If I had to distill it to one quality, enthusiasm. If you have enthusiasm, it will carry you a long way. But my opinion only. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are there any other questions? Any other comments? Shiromani, any questions or comments from you? So with that being said, maybe Shiromani, any questions from you? No?
No questions. She just wanted to say she really enjoyed your class.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We're giving the class before long. So I'll just finish off with that Nectar of Instruction verse, which I which I quoted then, in that case, if there's no further questions. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat, tatat karma pravartanat, sangatyagat satovrite, shadbir bhaktir prashidyati. So utsahan, as I mentioned, is enthusiasm. Nishchayat, endeavoring with confidence. Dhairyat, dhairyat means patience. Tatat karma, right? Tatat karma, which means according, various activities favorable, tatat karma, that those activities which are favorable for devotional service, pravartanat, right? Performing, sangatyagat satovrite, by giving up the association of non-devotees and accepting satovrite, accepting the good. So by, I think actually what Srila Prabhupada means in that is by following in the footsteps of the acharyas, right? These 6 principles will assure the success for pure devotional service. So enthusiasm, being confident that you're going to achieve bhakti through that enthusiasm, being patient because nothing good happens immediately, acting according to regulative principles, hearing and chanting the principles of Krishna consciousness, abandoning the association, sangatyagat, abandoning the association of non-devotees, but satovrite, keeping the association of devotees like you're all doing on this sangha, your success in devotional life is assured. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. If there are no other questions and comments, can I request Prasanatma Prabhu to end the session? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Parth
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't see His Grace Parth Prabhu. I'm sorry, Prabhuji.
It's okay,
I couldn't
it's okay,
see.
Prabhu. Haribol,
Yes.
Haribol.
Haribol.
I just wanted to comment also, but I haven't gotten the chance. Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhu.
very
for
much.
your
Yeah, Krishnatha Prabhu, it's okay. You will be conclude this session. Thank you very much, Krishnaja Prabhu. After a long time, I able to attend your class due to be scheduled in the temple. Yes, thank you very much for your nice topics and giving the importance of the like guru and the disciple, the qualification and other things. So it's too much. It's very, very important for everyone else to how is supposed to be listened from guru and what is our attitude and what is our focus, the mental status, so that we can receiving everything. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Haribol. Also, I request Krishnatma Prabhu, please you conclude this session. Haribol, Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. I
Hare
hope I'm
Krishna.
audible. Haribol. So thank you so much, Krishna Arjun Prabhu. Sorry, I usually listen from my phone and sometimes I just listen, not really holding it. But yeah, so thanks for the wonderful class. We get to know more about the speaker and the real speaker rather, and the real listener of the Bhagavatam. So it's very inspiring, and the qualifications of devotees and how we can really try and improve on ourselves and to be better listeners, both listeners and speakers. So wishing all the devotees over here all the best in our spiritual lives. And yeah, through all the classes we are hearing about hearing. So hearing is very important, and maybe make this also a very important aspect of our devotional service. So I can't speak too much or a lot because I'm not really qualified actually. But yeah, I say thanks a lot, Prabhu. And I'd request all the devotees please to unmute and glorify His Grace Krishna Arjun Prabhu for his wonderful session. So please let's unmute and chant Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Hare
Rama, Hare Hare.
I would just like to make one point before everybody departs. Prasanatma Prabhu said that he is not qualified to speak. I would say a unique quality about this online Sangha is that everybody are very eligible listeners and everybody also very qualified speakers. Like if starting from Shashwin all the way up, everyone are very qualified listeners and speakers, and it's a real privilege to be part of this Sangha. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Hare. Thank you. Prabhu. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Patitan Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo Namo.
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
His Grace Krishna Arjun Prabhu ki.
jai.
Jai.